I'm here today with Randy Scott. He's the CEO and president for Rare Element Resources. How are you today, Randy?
Doing fine, Tracy.
Randy, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to start briefly by what we should expect in 2014 from Rare Element Resources.
2014, based on the accomplishments of 2013, is shaping up to be a very important year for us. We have plans to start our final feasibility study in mid-year. We're updating all of the information that we've collected from a number of different tests and resource estimates and engineering estimates that we've been doing. So 2014, I think the key items for us will be the start of that feasibility study, as well as getting our new product from the pilot plant in the hands of potential customers and for evaluation.
Well, you're a very hard man to get a hold of, so I want to take this opportunity to ask you about sustainability in North America. I mean, we're having all these congressional hearings, we're having hearings in Canada. Can you give us a little bit more background on what you perceive to be happening? Is it just a lot of lip service, or do you see some real changes happening?
Well, I'll speak, I guess, to the United States. You know, the Rare Element Resources has had a formal program underway for approximately 3 years, in which we've engaged both the local communities as well as the state legislature, state community in Wyoming, and at the federal level. At the federal level, what we see, as is the case normally, is that there have been a lot of studies done, and not much tangible comes out of those studies, except for a growing recognition, I believe, of the importance of rare earths. It's going to take a while for that to really sink in, I think, and I'm sure you're aware of the F-35 case and how that's drawn rare earths to the top of some people's potential interest these days. I think the other thing is that for us, it's really important where we're located in Wyoming. It's a fabulous place. We've got great support in Wyoming, and you know, as I've said before, we try to engage those communities as much as possible in the process. The state of Wyoming is always interested in what we're doing and how we're moving forward. And as we move into the permitting process now, that's a key milestone. That starts to indicate to everybody how much progress we have made and where we are and where we'll be in 2 or 3 years.
Well, let me ask you another question, kind of in the same vein. It has to do with, you know, the media often says, well, Molycorp is processing rare earths. We don't need any more processors for rare earths in North America. Can you talk to that topic for just a moment?
Molycorp's going to be a fabulous addition to the industry. We're looking forward to the time when they are very successful. We think that would be great for the industry. It would continue to reinforce the merits of the industry that we're trying to build our project in. I think that every indication of demand forecasts, and you have to remember where Rare Element Resources is. We're looking out there 3, 4, 5 years when the mine will start to produce meaningful quantities of rare earths. All of the forecasts that we've seen indicate that you know, the demand is going to continue to grow, especially for magnet materials, heavy rare earths, etc. And as you know, Tracy, the Bear Lodge project is heavily skewed towards critical rare earths and not just the light rare earths. So when we look at the future, we think it's pretty bright out in that time frame. We'd like to see Molycorp successfully get started. We'd like to see them get in the market. We'd like to see, obviously, Lynas get into the market, and then let the demand equations catch up with it.
And then where will you be processing your critical rare earths?
Well, that's an interesting question. Right now, as a result of the pilot plant test work and our ability to produce this plus 97% pure product, we think that's a highly desirable product for offtake relationships, for processing, for partnerships. And as I mentioned, we've actually got that material out in the marketplace now. However, we believe that material offers serious advantages to a downstream processor. And when we think about that, we ask ourselves whether or not our own shareholders ought not to capture some of that downstream value add. So we have said, and the board has agreed, that we will evaluate the possibility of separation of our product. Someplace, potentially in Wyoming, but it could probably be located someplace else. So not only are we going to look at tolling or selling the product, but given the product that we've got, we want to take a look at whether or not we could actually separate ourselves. Those studies are very early stage right now, and they're based on conceptual, technical, and economic analysis, but we're looking forward to getting some results back on that in the next 2 or 3 months.
Okay, perfect. So speaking of economic analysis, what do you see for rare earth prices in 2014 and 2015? I mean, I know forecaster like opinions, everybody's got one.
Absolutely.
What do you think right now? Because we have so much conflicting data.
I have a perspective that comes from my experience 30 years or 35 years in base metals and other commodity metals, and that is that everything cycles. And in this case, I think that the industry is not particularly mature with regards to transparency in the markets. So some of that has to develop over the next year or two in some fashion. I'm optimistic that we have seen the bottom of the rare earth pricing, and I'm not sure that we're going to see significant improvements over the next year and a half. And that will obviously be challenging for some of us junior companies, as well as Molycorp and Lynas and others. But I'm optimistic that the market's going to find an equilibrium sometime 2015, 2016 that's going to have greater prices than it currently does.
Well, Randy, as always, it's a pleasure.
Thank you, Tracy.